Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Zander Sprague.
Hello, Epic people, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Zander Sprague, and today I am joined by Nicky Billou. Nicky, tell us a little about who you are and what you do.
First of all, Zander, thanks for having me on the show. It's a real honor to be here. And let me tell you my story. I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm a Christian from Iran. When I was 11 years old, the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran. And my late father, God rest his soul, he could see the writing on the wall. This wasn't going to be a place to raise a Christian family. So he got together with my mom. They talked. They made some decisions. And the decision was that they were going to move me and my two brothers out of Iran and settle us eventually where I now live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Now, I was 11 years old when all this happened. I didn't want to leave my home. I didn't want to leave my friends. But in retrospect, this was the single greatest thing mom and dad could have done for me and my two brothers. They took us from a legacy of tyranny to a legacy of freedom.
That is a compelling story.
Thank you. And here's the deal. I believe inside every human breast beats the living heart of freedom. Every man, every woman on this planet wants to march to the tune of their own drummer. They want to chart their own course. What they don't want to be is told what to do, how to do it, and how to live. And here's what I understood, is that freedom is the bedrock of entrepreneurial success, of living an epic life, if you will. Without freedom, there's no free expression. Without free expression, there's no free enterprise. Without free enterprise, there is no entrepreneurship. In entrepreneurship, my friends, the people that are entrepreneurs are society's greatest heroes. They're the men and women who, because of their dream and their vision, drive all human progress forward. And I saw this and I realized this, and I wanted to be someone who served entrepreneurs. And my late father, he was an entrepreneur. If you knew him, Zander, you'd love this man. Because if he knew you were looking for work, he'd sit you down in his office. He'd call all his entrepreneur buddies. He'd ethically manipulate them till one of them hired you. You were trying to start a business. I know, right? He would sit down with you. He'd get you going. He'd give you ideas. He'd give you access to capital, clients, get you rocking. If you were a friend of his, you were trying to buy a car or a house, you didn't have quite enough money. My father would top you up with a loan that he'd never let you pay back. And when I share this story on shows, some of the hosts can't believe it. They go, "What are you talking about? Who does this? This sounds like it's too good to be true." And I said, "Well, who does this?" Well, the late, great Napoleon Billou, for one. They go, "Why would he do that? What's the percentage in it for him?" I said, "Well, I'll tell you. First and foremost, he did it because he was a devout Christian. And he believed that he'd been blessed by his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And it was his duty to share those blessings with his fellow man. But he also did this because he was rich and successful and he could. I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to be rich and successful. I wanted people to look up to me. And my father is the greatest man I've known. He'd come to me when I was a boy and he'd say to me, "Son, life is not about money. It's about people." I go, "Okay, Dad." He said, "Business, son. It's not about money. It's about people." I said, "Dad, come on. Smart aleck kid, right? What are you talking about? Of course, business is about money. Without money, there's no business." He said, "That's true, son, but without people, there's no need for any money to do business. Because all business is, imagine a Venn diagram, is people that you solve problems for, and then you make a profit. That's the awe-inspiring purpose of business. Imagine people, imagine problems, imagine profit. And where all three intersect, that's the awe-inspiring purpose of business."
Absolutely. Now,
my dad came to me and he said to me, "That man standing in front of you, that's someone's father, that's someone's son, that's someone's brother, that's someone's husband. That's a hero to somebody." Okay, they've got hopes, they've got dreams, they've got fears. They've had disappointments. Maybe even someone just like you disappointed them in business. It's your job to restore their faith in humanity. My father would always tell me, every human being on this planet needs someone to love on them and believe in them. because that little spark of belief from you can turn into a roaring fire of belief, and they'll never look back. And me, what I do for a living, I'm 10 times published author, about to have my 11th book published on August 26th. I've had 2 New York Times best-selling books. One of those New York Times best-selling books was endorsed by no less a personage than former President Donald J. Trump. I am the host of the world's top-rated podcast for thought leadership. I have helped dozens and dozens of people make hundreds of thousands to tens of millions of dollars in extra revenue. I'm proud of all of those things. But if you ask me what I'm most proud of, I'm most proud that I am Napoleon Billou's son, that his blood flows through my veins, and that I believe in people. I believe in you, Zander, and I believe in all my fellow men and women, because they are God's wonderful, awesome children, and they deserve someone to believe in them and help them become the best version of themselves.
Absolutely. And I too believe that we all have epic things, not only that we've already done, and for some reason we downplay that. That's one of those mysteries for me, is all these epic things that you've done and that I've done, and somehow, and that everyone's done, and they kind of downplay it, or they don't actually say, yes, I actually have done great things. But more importantly, there are those things, Nicky, that we say, oh, it'd be great to do that. Be it write a book, run a marathon, enter a bodybuilding contest at 57. And you go, oh, I'd love to do that someday. And my simple question to everyone is, why not today? Why not take that first step forward? Because it's been my experience that the incredible things that I've been able to do all started by me saying, let me just start this journey. Some journeys weren't successful. That's life. Not everything we do are we successful at, but we do learn from them. And, I'm interested to find out, you shared with me right before we came on that you did something epic recently. You entered a bodybuilding contest and came in third. So I'm interested to know, was that a lifelong dream? Was that something that came later? And how was that contest?
Well, in February of 2023, I looked at myself in the mirror and with my shirt off, and my gut was hanging out over my belt. I was disgusted with myself. I used to be a top fitness coach, but over a 12-year period, when I got out of fitness coaching and got into business, I gained over 50 pounds. Every year I tell myself I'm going to, this the year I'm going to get in shape, and every year I got a little bit fatter.
Yeah.
But when I saw myself on February 2nd, 2023, I was so disgusted with myself. I reached what's called the point of disgust.
Okay.
The point of disgust. And that point of disgust made me make a decision to do something about it. So I realized that I was not going to get this done on my own. I needed a coach. I used to be a coach, but I now needed a coach.
Sure.
So I found a guy that I'd been checking out for years, and he'd helped a lot of people my age get on bodybuilding stages. I said, okay, that wasn't my goal at first. My goal was just to lose some weight.
Sure.
So I called him up and I said, hey, can you help me? I mean, first of all, can you help people my age? He said, absolutely. And I said, how long will it take? He said, probably 6 months to a year. And I said, great, let's get started. I didn't even ask him how much he charged. And within 6 months, I went from 227 to 169.
Wow.
And then, I told him, this is great, but I think I need to reshape my body. And I'd like to have my body be symmetrical and, look muscular and beautiful. And he said, okay. So we decided to enter a competition, and I trained from October to August for that competition. And I went on stage at 168, chiseled, ripped, and I was 57. My competitors were 20 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
Next time I do a competition, I'm going to enter a show with people my own age. But it was a hell of an experience. I got into peak condition, and you know, people ask me, why'd you do it? Because I want the second half of my life to be the best half of my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, if someone's in business here right now and they're going, well, how do I get my business to like get off this plateau? And you know what I say to that? First and foremost, you got to make a decision if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
No tire kicking. You got to commit to it. You got to be willing to suck at something before you're mediocre at it, before you're average at it, before you're good at it, before you're great at it.
Absolutely.
You got to do that. And then you got to invest in a coach or a mentor, you know, and be coachable, because the great Robin Sharma, who was a client of mine back when I was a fitness coach, once told me, if you want to double your income this year, triple your investment in personal and professional development, hire the coaches, join the masterminds, attend the conferences, do the courses, and read the books. You know, you think about that. You are the most important asset in your business, in your life. Therefore, you should get the most investment of time, energy, money, care. And so, you know, you got to hire a great coach, and then you got to be resourceful. You got to come up with the time, the energy, the money to make it happen. And these people that go, oh, I can't afford it, I can't afford to hire somebody, you're crazy. You can't afford not to hire somebody.
Right.
Most of the people I work with are amazing, heart-driven human beings, but they suck at marketing and sales, and suck is a technical business term.
Sure.
Yeah. And the reason is they're scared. They don't want to be seen as pushy or salesy. Problem is that people who need their help, they don't go after that business because they don't want to be seen as pushy and salesy. So they miss out on the business. They suffer. The client suffers because they don't get a good person helping them. And some charlatan marketer comes in, scoops up the business because they're good at sales and marketing, but they have no ethics and morals. So everybody loses.
Absolutely.
Even the charlatan loses because karma comes and bites them in the butt. And so what I do is I help these good people reframe selling. Nobody wants to be sold, Zander. You don't want to be sold. I don't want to be sold. But don't you want to be served by a caring advocate, by somebody who's there for you? You want to give them your money. You want to work with them. So
Absolutely.
Just help people shift from sales to service, sales to love has helped my clients double, triple, quadruple, fivefold, tenfold, hundredfold their business.
Absolutely. And another thing that I talk about sometimes, Nicky, is do not be afraid to invest in the people to help you do the things that you don't do as well. Because as this individual person, I can only do so much in a day. And what I should do is focus my time on the areas that I am strongest in and hire other people whose strength is not mine. So for example, I've had a virtual assistant for a couple of years, and that has freed up my time from doing the stuff that I need to do, like social media, creating social media posts and stuff like that, to be able to do stuff like my podcast, which is more in my area of strength. In working with people, I've heard people go, well, once I make it, I'll be able to hire someone. And I'm like, no, you got to figure out if you can get whatever help you need today, because that frees you up to then have the success that you would like to have, for you to go on that epic journey. Because if we're constantly trying to pack our bag and figure out what we need for our epic journey, we actually never leave. And that's a shame, right? And the other thing is, one of the things you said is you have to fully commit to what it is that you want. You have to decide that that's what you want. And I think that's so true. It's much easier to actually commit yourself 100% to something than to do it 90% or 80%. So let's take a look at your journey of transforming your body, right? If you're like, yeah, I really want this, but I'm only going to work out twice a week. probably not going to be too successful in trying to change your body. But if you commit and say, here's what I'm doing, and it is now part of my schedule, right? I know that every day I'm going to go to the gym at X time, and it's going to take me this long. Your day's actually easier because you know when you're doing it, not like, oh, sometime this afternoon, you know, too many things get in the way.
100%. 100%. Now I'll tell you a story of a client of mine. So I had this client who was a health and fitness coach himself,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a young guy, full of piss and vinegar, eager to get his
Mm-hmm.
business going. But he had 7 clients. He made like $1,200 a month on a good month,
Mm-hmm.
and he lived in Toronto, where I live. And Toronto is the New York of Canada. $1,200 a month ain't gonna cut it here.
Yeah.
So he came to me because one of my other clients had said, "Hey, this guy can help you." So I said, "All right, great." I talked to him. I said, "So tell me a bit about you, who you help." And he said, "Oh man, I can help anybody with any health fitness issue." That was his first mistake. He was trying to be all things to all people.
Sure.
And so I told him that. I said, "Let's narrow your focus." So he said, "Okay, what if I work with doctors?" I go, "Well, why do you say doctors?" He says, "Well, my dad's a doctor and I love my dad." I said, "Okay, that's a promising start." He said, "Also, doctors make a lot of money, so I think they can afford to pay me a lot of money." And I said, "Yeah, that is not a good point of difference." He didn't care. He wanted to go for it. And in 6 months, he got like 2 clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, "Dude, it's not working for you. We need to change this." He said, "Okay, I'm going to do cardiologists." "Why cardiologists?" "They make more money than doctors." Oh, my God, you're not getting it, kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so he tried it, got 0 clients.
Mm-hmm.
And during the same time, though, the good Lord saw fit to send him a Paralympian as a client with a missing leg from a childhood accident. That worked out really well. He did great work with this guy, and he came to me and he said, "I think I want to work with people with missing limbs. I think, you were right. I shouldn't have been going after the money." And I go, "Yeah, I was right." So I'll work with people with missing limbs. I said, "That's a great idea." He said, "I know how to help them." Brother, in 6 weeks, he signed up 400 clients. 400
Wow.
clients. He could no longer do one-on-one coaching. He had to create some sort of online
Sure.
methodology. And he went from making $1,200 a month to making $120,000 a month.
Wow. That's a great story, Nicky. So
If someone's listening to this and they're thinking, "Well, how can I get off my plateau? How can I do something epic like this guy? I make 120 grand a month, man. I've never made anything. I haven't maybe even made that much in a year." Some people are thinking, right? And first of all, you got to make a decision that that's what you want to do. You got to commit to getting good at what you need to get good at to do it. You got to get a coach and be coachable, invest in yourself, and then you got to be resourceful and do whatever it takes. Put in the time, the energy, the money to win.
right.
That's how you win.
Right.
You don't win by wishing and dreaming and hoping. Hope and change sounds like a good slogan. At least it did back in 2008 when Barack Obama brought it, but it really didn't say anything.
Right.
It didn't really mean anything. And it still doesn't mean anything. Hope and change aren't going to get you anything. What's going to get you something is a decision, a commitment, getting the right coach, and being resourceful and dedicated enough to do whatever it takes.
Definitely. Definitely. And also don't be afraid to make mistakes. I think all too often people think, "Oh, I've got to get it all perfect." We don't get our day perfect. I don't have all the answers to all the questions that may come up today, but it didn't prevent me from getting up and coming, and going through my day. And as I run my business, as I'm helping people, I say, yeah, we all make mistakes. I joke that as an entrepreneur, I've been very generous in buying lots of different tools that I thought might help me, but it turns out that they don't. They're not necessarily bad. It's just not the right tool for me. The same way that as a runner, I tried different running shoes until I found the brand and the type that fit for me, right? That's true, and people don't think about that, but I'm like, that is what happens. You are going to put an investment into something and maybe it doesn't quite work. Maybe you hire a coach, but it's not quite the right coach for you. But you don't know because you haven't had coaching. So you don't know what kind of coach do I want? Do I want someone who's barking at me all the time, or do I want someone who's firm but encouraging? That's what's important, you know?
Well, I'm going to push back on that.
All righty, go ahead.
I don't think most people are qualified to decide what kind of coach they need. It's like going to a doctor and saying, I think I need to decide what kind of doctor I need. Well, if your arm's broken, you need to find a doctor who can set the bone. That's what you need. You don't want to argue with him about how he's going to set the bone. You want to let him set the bone.
Okay,
And
so
if you're being coached, the job of the coach is to get you the result. Your job is to listen and take the coaching. If the coach has a track record of getting results for people, if the coach is somebody who knows what they're talking about, I think it's a cop-out for somebody to say, well, I don't like his style. And he's not there to be your best friend, you know? And honestly, a coach that is there to be your best friend is probably not being hard enough on you to make sure you do what you need to do. When I coached this client that I told you about earlier, the fitness coach, I was too easy on him. I was too nice to him at the beginning. I gave him 6 months to not listen to me before I put down my foot. I should have given him 2 days and said, no, man, I'm the coach. Listen to what I'm saying or you're fired.
Okay.
And that would have been the smarter thing to do. He suffered at $1,200 a month for another 9 months because I didn't put my foot down hard enough. When I finally put my foot down with him, it was basically to say, okay, well, you do what you want. You paid me for a year. And that was not a good way to approach it. He listened to me coming to that decision on his own. He should have just listened to me. When I hired the guy to coach me for my bodybuilding, I made a decision that I was going to do whatever he told me. And you got to get, I was a fitness coach, so I knew a lot about working out, nutrition.
Sure.
It was very easy for me to start to argue with his coaching in my mind. And when he gave me this first plan, I was about to send him an email. I'm saying nope, do what he says.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what you think, You paid this man money, do what he says. That was the best decision I made, to listen to what he had to say and not argue with it. And I think as a client of a coach, your job is to be coachable. Take the coaching. It's not the coach's job to conform to how you like to be coached.
No, but I will push back a little, Nicky, and say that all of us have been through lots of, we all went to school for at least 12 years, and a lot of us longer than that. And when you look back, you remember certain teachers, and there's a reason that you remember them, because they were really good teachers, because there was a way in which they were teaching that was relatable to you. You can also remember the teachers that you're like, I didn't really like that person for whatever reason. I do agree with what you're saying. You have to be coachable. If you're in there, you do have to listen. But I also believe that there are people who are just, it's not the right person for you. So you're going to try really hard to do what they're saying. But if it's not in your DNA, if it's not within your integrity, you may say, I can't do that, right? And so I'm going to push back a little. I do agree. You have to be coachable. You do have to you've hired someone. You hired them because they're going to help you. And you're right, like going to a doctor, you go find an orthopedist because you have a broken arm. But if you went to a doctor because you're having a health issue and the doctor isn't listening to you and isn't, you're like, hey, I keep having these headaches and I don't understand why, and they don't order any tests, perhaps don't want to keep seeing that doctor. Just because they're a doctor, just because you ask for their help, doesn't mean that they're the right doctor for you. That's all.
Well, like I said, the only caveat I gave you is that they need to know what they're doing and they need to have a track record of success. If they don't know what they're
Definitely.
doing, you shouldn't hire them in the first place. But if they know what they're doing and your tender feelings are hurt because they're telling you to do something that's out of your comfort zone, you need to get over that. And
Oh,
that's the truth.
I totally agree. I mean,
You
there
need to get
is
over that. Too many people come
struggle.
and say, I don't like how this guy coaches. Honestly, I'm just going to be straight up. I don't give a crap if you like how the guy coaches. I want to know
Right.
if his coaching is the right coaching. If he's telling you what to do and it's the right thing to do, and you just are having a personality conflict with him, get over the personality conflict. He's not there to be your friend. He's not there to make you feel good about
But
yourself.
Nicky, it's your money. It's my money. If I'm not getting what I need out of it, then like a
It's up to
product that
you.
isn't working, I'm not going to use it anymore. I mean,
It's up to you. You can do whatever you want. As you say, it is your money, but I'm just telling you, in the world of coaching,
I
when a
hear
client
that.
comes to me and says to me, and I had a client like this about a year ago, I don't like how you coach me. You're too direct. And I said, look, I'm not going to stop being direct.
Sure.
So we got a choice here. Either you're going to take my coaching or we're going to end our coaching relationship. And we ended
Sure.
our coaching relationship. That's happened once to me in 22 years,
Okay.
but I had no problem doing it. And I will say this again. If you're getting coached, your number one job is to find a coach that can deliver the result for you. And if that is your number one criteria, then all you got to look for is a coach who knows what they're doing and can deliver results. And I think if you're interested in making sure that coach speaks to you in a gentle or kind manner, maybe coaching isn't for you.
I, I'm not saying gentle and kind. What I'm just saying is there are many different communication styles. And if again, we learn about what is going to work for us. I I know that at 56, I understand what I need because I've had coaching. And I understand and I choose a coach who I say, yes, I've interviewed, yes, I think I can work with that person. Other
Good for
people may have a lot more, maybe have a much greater success record, but maybe that's not the right person for me. That's all.
Like I said, it's as I told you at the beginning of the show, I'm a big believer in freedom, and it's a free country. The United States, Canada is a free country too, still, despite the best efforts of some. And you get to choose how you're going to live your life, where you spend your money, and what you do it on. But I'm just
I hear
I
you.
just feel very strongly that a person choosing a coach needs to have the right criteria for choosing the coach. And the number one criteria is they got to know what they're doing. They got to have a track record of success. Because when I went to go lose all that weight, I was 58 pounds overweight. That's a lot to be overweight.
It is.
I didn't feel good. I didn't look good. I wasn't happy with myself. Honestly, I was not at all interested in how this guy spoke to me, what he did. And he was a nice guy. I'm not telling you he was a jackass, because he wasn't. He was a very nice guy. But that was not a criteria that was in my mind. If he had been yelling at me and saying, I need you to work harder, you're not working hard enough, I would have been fine with it. I'd have had no issues with it, because the only thing I wanted was I wanted to look different than I looked. I wanted to not feel tired. I wanted to not have a problem urinating, because the fat around my urinary tract was making it difficult to urinate.
Sure.
I wanted to look good in front of my lady, who's a beautiful woman, and I didn't feel that I deserved her anymore, because she was way better looking than me and way better shape than I was.
Sure.
I wanted my sons to be proud of me. Those were the things that were important to me. How this guy delivered his communication to me was not even a remote
Okay.
consideration for me.
I hear you. All right. So here's a question for you, Nicky. I talk about the power of two words, not yet, because I think in business, not yet is really important, because sometimes it takes us time to get to where we want to go.
Sure.
And be it writing a book or something. Oh, hey, Nicky, has your book come out? Not yet. Doesn't mean it's not coming out. It just means it's maybe you're editing took a little longer. You thought it was going to take you a month. It's now taking you 5 weeks. Still coming out. So what are one or two of your not yets?
Well, for 12 years, it was not yet to hire a coach and get myself in shape. So that was 12 years.
Yeah.
And, I have a book coming out next week, but I've got two other books that are in various stages of writing and development. They're not yet.
Yeah.
And I don't have an exact date for either one of them, although one of them I need to get moving on faster than the other. I think everybody's got to have not yets. There's times you're just not ready yet.
Absolutely.
You're not ready yet. You got to, that's why I think it's important, the whole coaching conversation that we just had. I think you as an individual, me, Nicky Billou, I need to be ready to take action. I don't want a client who's not ready to act. I don't want a client who's going to sit down and go, well, let's think about it. Let's talk about it. I want a client who wants the result yesterday. And that's how I am when I go and I decide to hire a coach, see a doctor, see a nutritionist, whatever. I want someone that is going to give me an action plan I can jump on immediately. But when I'm not ready, I say not yet, and I don't even really engage in a discussion to move forward with those things. Like I said, I got a book coming out next week. So there's two other books that are on the drawing boards. Not yet. Not time for me to look at those books yet. Not yet.
Exactly. Well, Nicky, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. This has been a really epic conversation. How can people get a hold of you?
At Nicky Billou on any social media platform, and just connect with me. And if you're a business owner who is stuck on a plateau and you're done with not yet, you're like, time is now, I want to get off this plateau, I offer something called a success vision call.
Okay.
So basically it's a complimentary coaching call, and what we do is we take a look at your success vision and we map out a blueprint for you, and the blueprint's free, so you should take advantage of it. It's a good thing if you're done with not yet.
Exactly. All right. Well, Nicky, thank you so much for your time. I want to remind everyone that you can go to epicbegins.com to find out how you can begin your epic journey. And if you go there now, you can get a free copy of my free ebook of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. As always, I want to remind people that epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.
Amen.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book Epic Begins with One Step Forward at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Zander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Zander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.